My name is Daniel. I am 40 years old, and I need to tell you about a promise I made when I was 12. I made it on a quiet night, lying in a dark bedroom staring at the ceiling. I promised myself I would never become like my father. At 12, promises feel simple. Right and wrong feel clear. You think you understand everything. I believed I would grow up and become a different kind of man, a softer man, a kinder father. But life has a way of slowly shaping you in ways you do not notice, and one day, many years later, I looked in the mirror and I saw his face staring back at me. Not exactly, but enough to scare me. My father was not cruel, that is important to say. He never hit me, he never abandoned us, he worked every day, he paid the bills, he came home on time. But he was hard. His footsteps were heavy, his voice was loud, his silence was even louder. When he entered a room, the air changed. You sat straighter, you spoke carefully, you measured your words. I do not remember him laughing often. I do not remember him kneeling down to look into my eyes. I remember instructions, corrections, expectations. When I brought home good grades, he said, "Next time, aim higher." When I scored a goal in football, he said, "You missed 2 chances." When I made a mistake, he said, "What is wrong with you?" Nothing was ever terrible, but nothing was ever enough. And slowly, I stopped trying to impress him. I started trying not to disappoint him. There is a difference. One memory never left me. I was 12. I was trying to fix my bicycle in the yard. The chain had fallen off. I didn't know how to fix it. My hands were dirty. The metal was greasy. The sun was hot. I felt frustrated. I felt stupid. My father came outside. He stood over me and watched in silence for a few seconds. I hoped he would kneel down. I hoped he would say, "Let me show you." Instead, he said, "Stop crying and fix it properly." I hadn't even realized tears were on my face. He turned and walked back inside, and I stayed there, alone, trying to figure it out. That night, I lay in bed and whispered to myself, "When I have a son, I will help him." That was the first promise. As I grew older, I spoke less, not because I had nothing to say, but because I learned my words were often corrected. When I was 17, I told my father I wanted to study art. I loved drawing. I loved creating. It made me feel alive. He looked at me like I had embarrassed him. "Art?" he repeated. "That's not practical. Be serious." That was the end of that dream. I chose business instead. I told myself it didn't matter, but something inside me quietly closed that day. By the time I left for university, our conversations were short and formal. When I stood at the door with my suitcase ready to leave home, he said only one thing: "Do not embarrass this family." Not, "I'm proud of you," not, "I will miss you," just that. I nodded, and I left. Years later, when I was 28, my father died suddenly from a heart attack. There were no final conversations, no apologies, no explanations, no softening. At his funeral, people told me, "Your father was a strong man." They said, "He loved you very much." I wanted to believe them, but love that is never spoken feels like silence. As the coffin lowered into the ground, I felt anger and grief mixing together, and I whispered quietly, "I will be different." That was my second promise. This one felt heavier, more serious. I believed I understood what kind of father I did not want to be. When my son Leo was born, I was 32. I held him in my arms and cried. He was tiny, his fingers wrapped around mine, his breathing was soft and uneven. I looked at him and said quietly, "You will never be afraid of me." For the first few years, I kept that promise easily. I read bedtime stories, I built toy towers, I let him climb onto my shoulders. When he fell, I picked him up. When he cried, I listened. I felt proud. I thought I had escaped my father's shadow. But shadows do not disappear. They wait. Life became busy. Work became demanding. Deadlines, bills, meetings, long drives. Sleep became shorter. Patience became thinner. Leo grew older. He asked more questions. He made more noise. He made more mistakes. Small things began to irritate me. Spilled juice, broken toys, homework done carelessly. One evening, he knocked over a glass of water. It spilled across the table and onto the floor. He froze. "I'm sorry, Daddy." And without thinking, I snapped, "Why can't you be more careful?" The words were sharp, too sharp. Leo's face changed. He did not cry. He just became quiet. That silence felt familiar. But instead of apologizing, I said, "Go get a towel." That night, I lay awake. But the next day, I forgot. And it happened again. Not screaming, not violence, just coldness, just impatience, just that tone, the same tone I grew up hearing. The moment of truth came when Leo was 8. He brought home a drawing from school. "Daddy, look!" It was a picture of our family. Stick figures, bright colors, big smiles. But I was drawn differently. Bigger, with thick eyebrows, and a straight line for a mouth. "Why do I look like that?" I asked gently. Leo shrugged. "You look like that when you're working." Working. Busy. Distant. That word hit me like a stone. The same words people used for my father. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. The tight jaw, the heavy expression, the distance in my eyes. I saw him, and I felt something crack inside me. That night, I stood outside Leo's bedroom door and listened to him breathing. Soft, peaceful, unaware. I remembered myself at his age. The bicycle, the yard, the silence. And for the first time in my life, I wondered something new. Maybe my father had been tired too. Maybe he had been afraid. Maybe he believed strength meant silence. Maybe no one had ever shown him another way. It did not excuse the pain, but it explained it. And suddenly, I felt something unexpected. Compassion, not just anger. The next morning, Leo spilled milk at breakfast. He froze again, waiting, watching my face carefully. Time slowed down. I felt the old reaction rising, the irritation, the sharp words. But I also felt 12-year-old Daniel standing in the yard with his broken bicycle. I took a breath. "It's okay," I said quietly. "Let's clean it together." Leo blinked. He studied my face. Then he smiled, a small, relieved smile. And something inside me softened. That evening, I knocked on his bedroom door. "Can I come in?" He nodded. I sat beside him. Sometimes Daddy gets too busy. I forget to be patient. I am trying to do better. He looked confused. "You're not scary," he said, but I knew how close I had been. I touched his hair gently. You can always talk to me, I told him. I am learning too. That week, something changed in me. I went to a store. I bought Leo a bicycle, not because he asked, but because I needed to do something I never did. When we got home, I took it out of the car. "What's this for?" Leo asked, his eyes wide. "For us," I said. For the next hour, I taught him to ride it. I held the back of the seat. I ran beside him. I knelt down when he fell. "It's okay," I said each time. "Try again." And when the chain came off, I showed him how to fix it. Together. My hands next to his, small fingers learning beside larger ones. It was not about the bicycle. It was about everything I never received and everything I could finally give. As we worked together in the driveway, I realized something. I was not just teaching Leo, I was healing the 12-year-old boy who once sat alone in a yard, trying to fix a chain, waiting for help that never came. Breaking a cycle is not dramatic. There is no music, no applause. It is quiet. It is choosing patience when anger feels easier. It is saying, "I'm sorry," even when your pride resists. And I have said sorry many times, more than my father ever did. Each apology heals something small, not just in Leo, but in me. I cannot change my childhood. I cannot change my father, but I can change what happens next. Last week, Leo brought home another drawing. This time, my mouth was curved upward, not a big smile, but real. "You look happier," he said. "I am trying," I answered. Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror again. I still saw my father in my face, the same jawline, the same eyes, but I also saw something he never had: awareness, choice, change. I once promised I would never become like him, and in some ways, I broke that promise. The anger was there, the impatience was there, the coldness tried to take root. But maybe the real promise is not about being perfect. Maybe it is about stopping when you notice. Maybe it is about healing what you inherited. I cannot erase the past, but I can soften the future. For my son, for myself, and for the 12-year-old boy who once lay awake and promised to be different. This time, I intend to keep it. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to Story Reading in English channel. Your support helps more stories reach people like you. With every story, our English gets better and our hearts get stronger.